I want to go back on something that you touched on earlier on. So you're a UN delegate, and
Mhm.
one of the things that you have been talking about is that AI is disproportionately impacting women and maybe other
Yeah.
minority groups. Why is that? Can you just explore that with me a little bit more?
Yeah, I mean, there's a multitude of reasons. From the research I've done, one of them is that tech has currently, or the digital space that we're building at the moment, essentially mirrors the physical space that we have. And so we have things like the patriarchy, we have things like misogyny coming through, which is just, there are charities which are attempting to tackle this, but it's been by no means been tackled at a state level or a government level. And so the issues we got is when there's like an increase in violence towards women being perpetuated in real life, what we're finding is that just is being mirrored in digital spaces. One of the other issues we have is that the people designing this digital space, again, are primarily men. 22% of those who work in AI are currently women. The majority of those have experienced abuse in their space, in their work. Um, and what we tend to find then is those who are building this are not building the safeguards needed. So we're seeing bias being built into the algorithms, which these learning like large language models are being built on. We are seeing again, money is being prioritized over safety. So, for instance, there was a YouTube channel that was hosting videos. So the channel was called Women Shot AI, and essentially it was AI created videos of women begging for their lives and then being shot in the face. And YouTube had that live for months, and it got
Excuse
taken
me?
down.
I've never even. That's
Right,
horrible. I mean, I don't
it
much
is
care that
horrible.
it's women in the video. Almost like the whole concept of that is disgusting.
Somebody's
Wow.
making taken and again these are AI generators, so deep fakes often. So people's likeness is being used. So often an image of their face, for instance, is being then dropped into a body of sorts, which is AI generated, and then those videos are kind of uploaded and shared. And so I think the reason why women are being targeted more, affected more, is because that's literally a reflection of the real world. And until we
That's
figure that out
shocking.
here,
Before
we're
you
going to
told
see
me that,
more.
now I did not know that. That's really shocking.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I'd love to touch on something else that you mentioned,
Yeah.
and that's about there's a few people making money out of this, and if you sort of
Yeah.
take a helicopter view and step back, it's quite obvious that there are people like Elon Musk,
Mm-hmm.
Mark Zuckerberg, Satya Nadella, other
Yeah.
people who are building these very large, they're building AI.
Mm-hmm.
And I question why they're building it. Are they building it for commercial success or to advance
Yeah.
humanity? And I know that you can have a narrative that says, well, it makes humans more productive, etc. But again, we're
Yeah.
going to go to the end zone and we're going to look at what that means. Talk about
Uh,
talk about what
yeah.
that means. So, you've got a small cluster of 7 or 8 people who are driving this AI agenda.
Hmm.
What's the impact on that the impact of that on everybody else, you and me?
Yeah. So the first thing is that, and this is not new for today, right? We've always had a nominated number of people, not even nominated, right? They nominate themselves, but a group of people who decide that thing is the future, and then they put loads of money behind it and they drive society forward, right? Um, so I wouldn't say it's new from that perspective. However, you've got a high concentration of wealth. They are making decisions which fundamentally impact humans. One of those is obviously around like energy consumption. So Satya Nadella, who is the CEO of Microsoft, he basically said that he expects us to get to 10% of global energy consumption by 2030. That's what's required if we are to be on the trajectory of AI
I
as he
want to
sees it
repeat
today.
that. I want to repeat that. By
Yeah.
2030, 10% of the world's energy output will be consumed by servicing AI. 10%.
Yes. And
Wow.
what he's saying is that there has to be, so he says that we need social permission to be able to kind of achieve that.
What do you mean
So
by social permission?
he has recognized that because the resources of the planet aren't infinite, that he has to have buy-in from wider society for them to go ahead with this project, because ultimately it impacts everyone. And there's a lot of data centers which are currently in existence which are already impacting their neighbors. So if you have a data center built in your local town, for instance, what you tend to find is air quality goes down, water bills go up, energy obviously bills go up because there's a higher demand in that area. And so we're already seeing kind of like that cost directly impacting everyday people. And so what Satya Nadella was alluding to was that we need permission from society if we are to reach that kind of 10%.
Yeah.
But I would argue, to your point.
Allow me to be dramatic a second, all right?
Yeah.
We've all seen Dr. Evil. I forget the name of the movie now, but we've all seen Dr. Evil sitting in his mountain and he's like threatening the world for $1 million, etc.
Yeah.
If he were a real character and if he were building AI, he would not pause to get social permission, right? He would just carry on towards world domination.
Yeah.
Why would real people in real life who have got a really strong, I mean, they're building a business, they're getting investment, they've got a share return on that investment, they want to be the leader. Why would they pause to get that social permission?
So what's kind of sad is I was reading a book called Supremacy, AI ChatGPT and the Race That Will Change the World. It's written by Parmi Olson. And what they spoke about was that actually many of like the early pioneers of this technology, they were designing it for the greater good, right? They genuinely set out with a higher goal in mind. They genuinely wanted societal value to come from this project. So that changed quite dramatically. And often it changed because there became a race to get and commercialize AI. So to get it to market and to commercialize it. And that's where a lot of these issues come from. Again, this isn't unique to AI, but when profit kind of like overtakes or becomes the main goal, what ends up happening is that things like safety measures end up taking a back seat. Right. And so one of the issues that we've got with these like 7 people who are in the organizations which are kind of driving AI forward, I would argue, and they have expressed, I wouldn't say regret, but they've absolutely expressed warnings around this and the fact that there should be more frameworks, etc. But equally, these were the same 7 companies who took them to market and almost like they unleashed it into the world first. And now we're going, whoopsie, we now need to kind of reconsider things. And what I'm seeing is that you've got these charities kind of like sweeping up behind them with all the harm that's kind of like falling out of it. And they're like, oh, but we're just learning and, innovation can't sit still and we need to keep pushing forward. And a lot of the time it's like, well, the US has to beat China. So like we have to keep going. But then you have things around like data security risks, like really prominent. Again, you've got like harm literally being caused towards human beings. So women, like the use case at the moment. So in terms of like deepfakes and videos being created by AI, I think 95% of online deepfakes are non-consensual pornographic images at the moment, and 99% of those targeted are women. So also what's really interesting is that you've given this technology to people and all people can think of are very kind of simple use cases for this. And that's what we're seeing at the moment. And actually back to Satya Nadella, he actually said that one of the issues that they're seeing at the moment and why businesses aren't seeing a return on investment and why society as a whole isn't seeing the value is because the use cases are really, really slim at the moment. And he said we need a more, like a broader spectrum of economic value coming from this before it actually gets adopted and before we kind of start to see those returns. So what is interesting is that we're seeing this kind of big boom, but for me, we're seeing quite a restricted amount of use cases. And it's because you're relying on human creativity and humans kind of what we can dream of and think of.